Welcome back to UKSG Red 2024. This event will raise money for Crisis. You can donate using the links below or by doing !donate in chat. We'd also like to thank ESN BSJ for their continuous support. Now, up next we have Natty with Christ Team Racing. Please, take it away.
Okie doke. Yep, so we're pretty much ready to go, so we'll get straight in it and we'll talk about the game once it starts. So just a quick load screen here, and then time starts as soon as we get movement. And there we go. So this is Crash Team Racing. Originally developed on the PlayStation 1, and like most PlayStation 1 games, I'm playing it on a PlayStation 2, which makes use of the fast disk speed option, which saves a minute or two just on load screens. So if you've never played, well, games from the 90s, there was a bit of a fad where every creator of a series of games had to make a kart racing game, and this is Crash Bandicoot's answer to a kart racer. It is Crash Team, but we're going to be playing as Tiny Tiger the whole way. So Tiny has the fastest speed stat, but he turns really badly. But in this game, speed is actually kind of the most important thing. There are some courses where Tiny does fall down, where his speed, where his handling is more of a disadvantage. But overall, for the entire run, Tiny comes out quicker for the whole thing. So that's what we're going to be using Tiny for the entire run. And the premise of this game is, in order to work out who is the fastest racer, in order to save the world from a really scary alien who wants to enslave the planet and turn Earth into a parking lot, is quite literally the story of this game. We have to go through a selection of races, winning every single one, and then after each hub world, we're also going to race a boss who has keys, which let us progress the game until we've got 4 keys and 16 trophies. Then we get to race Nitrous Oxide, the big scary alien, to prove that we are better racers than him and save the planet, basically. So a lot of the tech in this game is going to be a lot of driving sideways. So as is classic with a lot of kart racers, there's a thing called mini turbos. So in order to activate a mini turbo, you need to be doing a drift. So when you do a drift, a little meter at the bottom will fill up. So here we are. So get a little meter at the bottom filling up, and then I'm going to try and hit the opposite shoulder button, the one I used to drift, when that meter is full. So on top of mini turbos, so mini turbos do give you a bit of speed, and this game sort of has a layered level when it comes to speed. So you always maintain the highest level of speed, excluding some USF stuff which we'll come into later. But at this point, we'll always maintain the highest amount of speed that we've got. The highest amount of speed we can get is from a turbo pad. So we do these little mini turbos to basically build up what we call reserves so that we can keep that speed as long as possible. So this is Rouge Tubes. So this is one of the more fun tracks in Hub 1, sorry. And this is one of the also very volatile tracks. So we're going to do a tech called a Speed Ghost, which is basically when you have more speed than you're allowed to have, you basically get to keep that speed as long as you minimize your contact with the ground. If you are in the air, the game doesn't try and reduce your speed, you just keep whatever speed you've got. So what we're going to try and do, to the best of my ability, is try and keep the needle on the speedometer at the bottom right. When that needle is full, I've got what's called Speed Ghost speed, and I'm going to try and keep my speed here by doing froggies. Once that drops, I should go back to normal drifts, but if you also go uphill, you can actually save a bit of time by doing froggies. So there's a little bit of extra tech there. So you either have more speed than you're supposed to have, so you mash froggy, or you are going up a hill. And froggy is just the term where you just mash hops, basically. So a lot of the tech is going to be doing drifts and mini turbos to build up reserves to maintain the speed of the fire coming out the back of our car. And then the other thing is going to be trying to maintain speed when we have more speed than we should have. I'm just going to do a little lag reduction there. By swapping the camera, we just reduce a bit of lag, and also we're going to reduce the lag as we enter this track as well. So there's quite a lot of things going on at the minute. I'll try and talk about Wumper in this track. So you might notice that, again, as a classic staple to these kind of games. You pick up things as you go along. So there are item crates, which you can pick up and drop stuff. Usually I'm not going to be dropping things. I'm going to drop this potion to try and manipulate an item, which we might get. So I'm going to drop this here. And what should hopefully happen is that the CPU drivers will try and either... Oops, I was not paying attention. Okay, oh. They hit it, and you notice for a second there I did go down to third. If I picked up an item while I was in third, there's a chance I could pick up what's called a mask. A mask is the only item in the game that physically improves our speed, and you can only get the item if you're not in first. So this game has a bit of an imbalanced item system. You are either first or you're not first. So if you're not first, you can pick up any item, whereas if you are first, you can't pick up the sort of catch-up item. So the other thing I was going to say is about Wumper. So I'm picking up Wumper at the top. So every time you go through a Wumper crate, you get either 5 to 8 Wumper, and each Wumper adds to your speed up to 9 Wumper. So if you have 9 Wumper, you can no longer gain more speed from Wumper. You have the maximum amount of speed you can get. But then if you pick up a 10th Wumper, you will get what's called like juiced up items. So your items will be a bit more powerful. And 9 times out of 10 tracks, that is really not helpful to us, because obviously we're not going to be dropping items to hamper the other players. We're just way too fast for that. And we're not going to have to worry about sort of the speed up items, because they only really give us fire and reserves, but when we already have a level of speed, they won't add to our speed. So nothing is going to give us speed at this level, so we're not too worried about the items. So that was Mystery Caves. Again, a lot of speed ghosts there, and what you'll start seeing is we'll start trying to chain speed ghosts. So when you already have a lot of speed and then you try and gain more speed, it adds on top of the speed you've got, and you can go crazy fast. But these techs are usually very precise, let's say. There's quite a lot of difficulty trying to get those techs to work. So we're just going to enter reverse cam again. That corner of Sewer Speedway is really laggy for some reason, so we're just going to look the other way. So I'm going to talk about the actual category we're doing. So we're doing Skipless. So if anyone knows this game, there are unintended shortcuts that you can do in some of the tracks. So we are going to be doing shortcuts, but specifically we're only going to be doing the ones that are intended. So before anyone complains that I'm going to jump up here and do this shortcut, which is like up here, this is an intended shortcut because the naughty dog said, yeah, that's fine. We designed that for you to skip, so that is an allowed shortcut. So in this track, we're going to be using the walls to our advantage. This is a very unique track because it's the only track that makes use of these walls. So basically your cart will always stick to the wall as long as it doesn't go sort of above 90 degrees. And the walls in this track are 90 degrees almost. So you can actually stick to the walls and go really fast. Because the way the game kind of works out your speed, there's a lot of maths involved with this game that we don't really fully understand yet. So basically, when you are on a wall, it tries to calculate your downward speed is insanely high. So you notice here we've just got loads of speed, and we're going to do the same hopefully here. So we're just going to jump off that wall and just keep all that speed the game gave us. And we're going to try and keep this as long as we can. So you notice my needle is still full at the bottom. And then we're just going to carry it to here. So that ramp actually was the part where I lost my speed. So I'm just going to go back to drifting. You have to avoid doing the little hops, the little froggies. You don't want to do that if you don't have additional speed. Because if you don't have additional speed, it's actually slower to do those hops. So, oh, okay, almost had the classic missile there. So we're overlapping the computer players. They're not very fast, and they don't rubber band that much. And the one in second place is so angry at you, they will shoot a missile backwards, and it will hit you. If you're unlucky, they might sometimes shoot a bomb. They just don't like you in that spot. So it's quite common that people can either lose runs or just have to take like a few second time loss there to pretty much just bad luck. You can mitigate it a bit. If you have an item, you can drop it behind you, and then the missile will hit the item instead. But if they shoot you, if they shoot a missile and the missile goes backwards, then you can't block that unless you shoot it with a bomb, which is not easy to do. So quite lucky we didn't get hit there. So this is track 5, where we're going to be revisiting a track in the hub to race the boss. So this bomb is going to be really helpful here. So I'm going to use this bomb to try and snipe the Wumper crate down here. So if you can hit it, there we go. So we hit the Wumper crate, and that gives you Wumper as if you drove into it. So we've got 8 Wumper, which is perfect. That's the max amount we can get with 1 Wumper crate. So that's going to give me a speed boost that we wouldn't necessarily have in this track, because some tracks it's just not worth detouring for the Wumper because it only makes you a little bit faster. So we're not going to hit that crate normally. So the gimmick with boss races, they are a little bit faster to race. They do have their own racing lines, but the main thing is that they drop items or shoot bombs or something. So all Reparoo is doing right now is dropping TNTs. So I'm going to start dropping items here. Okay, I can't because that's a bomb, so that's not too helpful. Maybe we'll get something here. So you see those nitros blowing up? Okay, we didn't quite go fast enough to catch up with those, and then that's a bomb. 10:26. I'll take the 10:26 in the marathon. So yeah, so there's a certain amount of items that can be dropped on the track at any given time, and your items also add to that pool of items. So you can start blowing up the boss's items by just dropping stuff behind you that will then clear the path. So if I was a little bit faster, those TNTs would become a bit of a problem, but I wasn't too fast to catch up. So that's Hub 1, and then we're going to be repeating the same kind of idea. So you're going to do 4 tracks in each hub, and then race the boss. So we're going to do a bit of boring hub movement. This is going to look... It doesn't look as hard as it is, but the game is trying to load the hub for the first time, because I've not been able to do like a warm-up run. I don't think the staff would let me do a full run and then do a second run. So the lag is going to be a bit stronger. It's not too bad, actually, but you can sort of get quite a lot of lag that can extend inputs. We're going to come towards this portal and reverse cam again. As we enter a hub world, the game wants to load all of the renders for that hub. So we're just going to flip the camera back and not load all that stuff. So now we're on Tiger Temple. So it's a quick tech here. So I'm going to do a U-turn, and I'm going to hold X and square and just mash Froggy. And that lets you keep a little bit of speed as you go across the grass, and then that just cuts that big corner. The alternative method is to sort of jump all the way down, which is a bit slower, so we're not going to do that. We're just going to cut straight across the grass. And this is a track where we need to get items we can throw. So I'm actually going to be recycling items. Okay, a bomb's perfect. So I need a bomb to shoot a door, which opens a shortcut. So we're going to show where that is. Here we're just going to do another... So we're going to go this way. We can't physically take the corner tight enough with Tiny without losing our fire. Or if you do, it's a very risky strat, which doesn't save enough time for it to be worth it. So here we're going to shoot this big door, and then we get to open a secret passage, and that saves about 2 seconds a lap. So you can lose 6 seconds on this track if you don't pull an item that you can shoot forward. Thankfully, it's about, I believe it's 50-50 to get an item that you can use. No, I think it's a little higher than that. I think it's like 55% chance. So to get unlucky enough to get no items you can use is quite rare, but it's quite common to get like a 1 out of 3, which is what we got. Ooh, okay, we just bounced off a computer player there. If you use a turbo item, you get a state where you can actually bounce off the heads of computers. Oh, it's gone. Sometimes it lasts quite a while, sometimes it just kind of goes. So that's that track. So that's going to be the only real significant case of RNG in this track, because we're not going to be doing item skips or anything like that. So that's going to be quite good, quite relieving, because the item rolls can be very unkind in this game. So the next track will be... we're just going to skip over, I didn't really mention the tips. We've got about another two more tips, and then later on we won't get those tips anymore. They're just telling us how to drive, basically. You have to play the game for the game to tell you how to play the game, and the game doesn't tell you how to do half the things that are actually useful to know, which is quite funny. The tips are pretty useless. So now we're in Coca Box. I'm in second. Ah, damn it. So I was in second for very briefly there. So what I was trying to do is roll an item before I overtook Cortex, because that gives me a chance of picking up a mask. So if I got a mask, that's just, it's free time save, basically. Because randomly the CPU players will get an extra speed boost and just kind of sail off ahead of you until you catch them up. So you can abuse that in some tracks to just get a really good item, but unfortunately it's only like a 10% chance to get a mask or something like that. It's quite low. so not too surprised. So we're going to be doing a tech called whap whap, where you go whap whap, and then you jump down this hill like that, and you get a bit of speed. And then you go across the grass. There's a little bit of a downhill there. We're going to get more speed. So there's a lot of speed chaining in this track, a bit more speed there. And that is this track. This is one of my favorite, if not my favorite track. I love this track, but it's really hard. So you have to try and get this quick as well, which we did. So again, so we're going to froggy up this hill, and then we're going to do the whap, whap, and then get a bit of speed there. And then hopefully get that downhill, which we got nicely. Do a mid-air off this bit, get a bit more speed. I didn't quite get some speed off that one. You can tell by the landing. But that was a really good Coco Park. That's better than the Coco Park I always get in my runs. It doesn't matter how good the run is, I cannot play Coco Park in speedrun. So I'm really happy that went well. So now we're going to start coming into tracks where typically the no major glitches category will start doing skips. There are 2 skips in the next track that the category has. So there's one where you use a mask called the Tiziano skip, or the Tiziano skip, I think is the correct pronunciation. I'm not Italian. Or the Papu NMZ, no mask zone shortcut. So I'm not going to be doing that, and I'm also not going to be doing a wall ride, which you can do at the end. Instead, I'm going to be playing this track as Naughty Dog intended. So we're going to do what's called a U-turn there. So if you hold square and the down arrow and a direction, you do what's called a U-turn, which is a really sharp turn. And you might think that's really useful, and it is, but to do that, you have to press square. So square is brake, and if you brake, and we're going to do another one there to get that speed. If you do a brake, you immediately lose the flames coming out the back of your car, which is generally slower. So you only kind of do it in situations where you can get your speed back. So we're going to do it here, and we're going to immediately get our speed back. So that U-turn doesn't lose us time because we get to take the corner tight and get our speed. I'm going to use that pillar, which is intended to go up here. Again, these are intended parts of the track. And this skip, you might think, is unintended, but this is one that the Nitrous, the Oxide Ghost uses. So there's a time trial mode, and basically that skip is intended to beat the time trial. So that's why we're allowed to do that one. And we're just going to do a U-turn there. Okay, so we've got an item, thankfully. So that item is actually really useful because that gives me basically my fire back. It's a bit of a, don't worry, you can mess up. The game's got my back because it gave me a good item. Also here we're going to do a U-turn again, and then we're going to, okay. That track could have crashed, and it's not, which is great. So I did make some safety saves, but that track has a habit of crashing. If too much happens when you cross the finish line, the game just kind of nopes, and the whole game crashes on the load screen. So thankfully I do have backup saves in case that happens. We're going to activate a mask hint here. So if you go close to specific things in the hub world, then the mask will pop up and tell you about that specific thing. So that mask is just telling us that we have to get all the trophies in this area in order to face the boss race, which we already knew because we already done the boss race, but the game figures you have to tell us that at some point, right? So we're going to do that hint because it's better to get that hint instead of just trying to skip it. We're going to do another X square over that, so we keep our speed and take a bit of a cut. So we do allow cuts across like grass and off-road, mainly because we can't really police whether people go off-road or not. So it's only really sort of quite major unintended skips that are abusing the way the game calculates, you know, your progression and things like that. So there is hopefully going to be a bit of a tech we can show off here. So we're going to go across the grass, the dirt again, try and get as much speed as we can. And down this hill, we'll get a big speed ghost. And then we're going to try and hit. So I'm trying to get a bit of speed. Actually, I've got a bit of speed, actually. This is fine. But hopefully I'm trying to hit a bit of speed off the road. So you have to go into the water and jump off the road. There's a tech called a buffer jump. And these aren't used too often. But basically, when you are on a really sharp surface, or like a really high surface, if you buffer, so basically you hold the jump button down, it will give you 2 jumps, which is what I'm trying to do there. I didn't get it. That's a shame. That's a really cool tech, and it's only in this track. But that's a shame. There is a thing called a corner speed ghost, where you drive off a corner, as the name intends, and if you hit a specific part of your car, it gives you a crazy amount of speed. So that's what we're going for there. When I go towards track, you might see me. Oh, you can't see my controller. I'm going to be mashing X and circle. If you buffer mashes as you come towards the end of a track, it skips the cutscene on the first frame, and then X and circle do the same thing. So you kind of mash both of them, and X will skip, or X or circle will, whichever one, will skip the cutscene on the first frame with all the names going across the screen, and then the alternative input will then skip to the end of the race. So it's just a way to skip that end cutscene quickly. But I think that's what causes the crash. So this track can also crash. Hopefully that doesn't happen. So this track is going to be, again, we're going to be doing Papu's Pyramid again. It's annoying because I don't like this track, but I don't like it because it's quite difficult. The gimmick with the boss is that he's dropping potions. Thankfully, he drops potions behind him, so as long as we're never behind Papu, then we're fine. But we might catch up with him later on, which is why I'm going to keep hold of this nitro for that. So that tech there, you'll notice there is a little meter at the bottom. So on that meter is a number, and that number basically counts up the amount of milliseconds you are in the air. So it kind of looks, ooh, okay, that's not very good. That's me not concentrating on my line. So that number adds up the amount of milliseconds you are in the air off a jump. So it's not just necessary any time you're in the air, it's when you're in a jump. So if that goes above 150, which it will here, they go 166, it's invisible. Sometimes this happens, you just get invisible fire, but I actually should have full fire coming out the back of my cart. So depending on how much airtime you get stage levels of fire, which is where sort of yellow fire gets its name, because there's a yellow stage and there's a green stage, green fire, which is quite slow. But you can get full red fire if you jump 150 milliseconds in the air. You get it immediately when you land. So that's what we're going to do with that U-turn. And we didn't get too bad items. I'm just going to just let that play out. I think if you skip that too quick, that's where the game crashes. So we're past the 2 crash points of the game, so hopefully I can actually finish this run. To put in perspective how often it crashes, I did about 6 practice runs, and 3 of those attempts crashed in Papu. So it happens quite a lot for me. So now we're past Papu, we're going to be entering Hub 3. As is typical with, platforming and these kinds of games, we have to have the mandatory snow levels, which is what we're going to be coming to. So we're just going to drive over to the hub and unlock this door. There's nothing we can do to speed this door up, we just have to open it. I suppose one thing I've not really talked about is that I am playing on the NTSC version, specifically the American version of the game. So, as you can imagine, NTSC runs at 30 FPS, whereas PAL runs at 25 FPS. But this game's optimized quite well, that there's not a huge difference between the game, because the game's not really based on frame rate, it's based on actual physical clock speed of the console. So PAL is actually optimized to run about the same, but there are some things that still run at 25 FPS, and door animations is one of them. But to talk about sort of the 2 different versions a little bit, NTSC is like the first version that was released of this game, NTSC U version, and it has a few more bugs that were later patched, and they were kind of things we as a community didn't find until quite late. So obviously Naughty Dog knew. Oh, that's going to hit me. That's very sad. I'm going to try and do the skip anyway. Yeah, there are things in this version that did get patched, and some things that just didn't. Oh, well, almost. That's a tricky skip to hit with the, again, that's an intended one. So the main difference is obviously frame rate's higher. You do get higher jumps in the NTSC, so if you jump on a flat surface, you jump for 23 milliseconds, whereas on PAL, 26 milliseconds, sorry, and PAL is 23 milliseconds. So it's a very slightly, oh, this is gonna hit me again. Oh, that's a nice cycle. And we're gonna try the skip again, because it's a marathon. Oh, hey, there we go. You have to jump super late to make that without speed. The game kind of doesn't want you to do that without speed, but there we go. So yeah, so the thing with the PAL version is it is the European release of the game, and as typical with European games released in sort of this era, they have every language, or say every language, they have some of the most popular languages in Europe is on the disc. So it has lots of different languages, and you can do what's called a language glitch, where you say, thanks for the languages, that's great, but I'm not going to select any, and you cancel out of the language menu, and you basically don't select a language. Any time when there's written text on the screen, that's replaced with punctuation, just kind of, you know, question marks, underscores, all the text is removed, and that actually saves time because it skips a cutscene in Hub 3, which is Hub we're in. So PAL overall is a little bit slower than NTSC, pardon me, but because of the language glitch, it actually does catch up a bit, and PAL at a very high world record level on the no major glitches category, PAL is optimal. On NTSC, on this category, so Skipless, NTSC is optimal because the category is a bit longer. So the shorter the category is, the more PAL has that advantage, whereas when the categories start getting longer, then PAL loses its extra time save. So this is another intended shortcut. I personally don't think it should be allowed because I don't think it's supposed to be taken as a shortcut, but I didn't get involved in the rules and I understand why. So this shortcut in this track actually is covered with time crates. So time crates in the relic race, basically you drive into them and you pause the timer. So the game, they did intend you to go down this route. And we're just going to do a bit of a U-turn to get through there. We can turn into that without doing a U-turn, but it's so difficult and saves such little time that's not really worth it. We're not going to froggy over the finish line. Quite a common thing that happens in that track is that people jump over the finish line. If you do that, your lap doesn't count, and the game's like, you've got to do the whole lap again. You know, what do you want me to do about it? You jumped over the finish line, that doesn't count. So you do go straight back to last place, and you have to do a 4th lap or just reset. So that's one of the harder tracks again. And now we're coming into Polar Pass. This is quite a notorious track on the no major glitches category, but on this category, it's not so bad. It's quite a nice track to play. I'm going to reverse cam at the start because the seal causes the game to lag a bit. So we're going to go left side here, and then we'll go left side again. So this is a bit of a fig 8. It's quicker to go left side on the first lap because we want to get that boost pad. And then future ones, we're going to go right side. So I have to be really careful here. So I don't want to jump off I can jump off this one. And I have to be careful to drive off that ramp because you can jump straight over that ramp with the turbo pad. I need that turbo pad for the speed because I do a U-turn before. So I have to be very careful to get that turbo pad, not overshoot the ramp, because that will cause me to have half the track with no speed. So I have to be really careful to hit that ramp there. We're going to do a bit of a corner cut here. We're just going to jump off there. That's quite high. And then that's the track. So the seals, if you hit them, they will spin you out. And that's quite bad because we lose our reserves. So we go really slow as well as just generally crashing. There's going to be a seal here. Okay, I was a bit too slow, so he wasn't in the way. I'm going to come back to this. So again, we're going to try and do a mid-air off here. I'm going to try and do a U-turn. There we go. That's what I kind of want to do. Not lose too much speed, being safe, but sometimes you just don't get the right hops. In this tunnel here, we're going to do a downhill there and keep the speed and then go through that wall. So that's, again, that's an intended shortcut, which you are supposed to do for the time trial. And the last little corner cut here. So you'll notice when we get back to the hub world, so now we're in hub 3, we no longer get what's called the Aku hints. So Aku will give you a hint after you finish a track, and these only happen between hub 1 and 2. It's the first 6 tracks, first 6 hints. Oh, I jumped off the ramp and didn't hit the turbo pad. That's annoying. So this is what I was saying. I'm trying to avoid doing this, but I don't quite have as much speed. But anyway, back to Aku hints. So in hub 3, the game's going to stop giving me hints because it assumes by now I must know how to play, right? So it doesn't give me hints. And what we're going to try and do is called a pause glitch. So when the trophy goes up to the top of the screen, if I pause on the right frame, I can actually skip Aku, Uka, the mask, saying, congratulations, you won a trophy. We're going to try and skip that. So I'll try. So I'm going to time it once that, like that. So that is we want to say it's a one-frame trick to sound impressive, but I get it more often that it shouldn't be a one-frame trick because I'm not that precise at pressing buttons. So there's a little bit of a window there to press that. So you basically want to bring the pause menu up and then mash X. I time it. Some people just mash start to try and get that skip, or I find I get it more consistently if I just time the start press and skip that cutscene, and that saves about 2 seconds each time. And that can pretty much make or break runs. You can lose, you know, 12 seconds because there's 6 opportunities to do that skip. So you only get, hopefully, you get it all 6, but 50-50 is quite an average, you know, community average, let's say, what people tend to get. So now we're in the infamous Tiny Arena. So again, if anyone follows this game, follows speedruns of this game, they probably are aware of this track. There is a skip in this track where you use a nitro to jump over a wall right at the end of the track, and the game lets you do that. So the game finishes the lap you're on and starts a new lap where you land, and you land right at the end of the track. So basically you skip 80% of the track or something. It's a lot of the track you just straight up skip by jumping over the wall. And I say people know about it because it's incredibly precise and it requires an item. So you have to roll the item, which is a 40% chance to get the item, and you get 2 attempts at that on lap 2. So I don't know maths, but it's about 50-odd%. Or you have to, so you have to keep rolling until you get a nitro, and then you have to hit the nitro and go over the wall. If you fail it, you pretty much have to reset, because trying to set it up again, it takes too much time. So if you have to do Tiny Arena Skip in your run, when you kind of get to that level, you have 2 attempts to do it on 2 different laps, so 1 attempt per lap. And if you fail it, then GG, you know, you got to go back to the start if you want to PB. So this is the reason this category exists. Because some of us, including me, don't like that skip very much. I'm like, I want to play this game, but I don't want to do that skip. So this is where we've got Skipless. And in general, like, the reason I wanted to show Skipless off as a category, because it's a really nice category for beginner players, because learning skips is some of the hardest things to do in this track. So just learning how to drive is really helpful if you ever want to play this game and get good long-term. Learning fundamentally how to drive is the best approach, and then learning skips when you've sort of gotten used to it. So I'm not really talking much about the tech in this game. On this track, we're trying to jump off specific hills because they push us forward. This part we're going to do a U-turn because it's just so tight. So we're going to do this section without speed, but it's actually quicker to do that U-turn because we're going to get speed back up here. Again, we're jumping off very specific hills, because some hills you jump will shoot you up, and that's really slow, and other hills will shoot you a little bit forward. So, and again, we're going to do a bit of U-turn here. This is a really big corner. Oh, and it's just going to send me that way. That's nice. Let's try and not drive in the mid. And that, again, I'm going to have a bit of less speed here. And then this corner, I'm going to do another U-turn because this is a really tight corner. So this is a track historically was one of the reasons we didn't use this character, but we've actually optimized the tech to the point where not only is Tiny viable for this track, but he's actually faster than Coco and Engine, who are acceleration characters that we used to use. So we've optimized that track to the point where it's actually quicker to use Tiny when driven, you know, optimally. So we're going to come into another boss race. So if you're playing on PAL, this cutscene just doesn't play. So you do Tiny Arena, finish Tiny Arena, then you drive straight into the boss race. This is about, it's a 20-30 second scene, it's a 23 second cutscene, I think, something like that. So that straight up is time save for PAL. So again, we're going to be doing more Dragon Mines, which we've already talked about, so if there's anything the host wants to plug or any donations, then now's a great time for that.
Yes, we actually have a few donations here. We have $5 from Finn6Y towards the UFO ending of Silent Hill Any Percent, making sure that stays in the lead with $25 as opposed to the Bad Plus ending at $15 right now. Then we have $5 from Calliope saying those are some fast names. And we also have Fipo with $40 saying 3 crashes plus a lot of paint scraping equals 1 expensive bill, and they both have went towards the Sonic 1 Forever incentive of bringing Tails along, and that is now currently sitting at $100. So we're getting there, folks. We are about 1/5 of the way there, so if you would like to see our runners suffer with tails. Please get your donations in.
Cool. Okay. So, again, we're doing drag mines here. This track gets quite tricky because those nitros are in random places. Well, not completely random. There is some places where there's a region where we'll get some nitros. Interestingly, there can only be, I think, 4 or 5 nitros on the track at any time. But they are always spread out in such awkward places. So in this category especially, where a lot of the time is optimizing driving, you don't have sort of big time saves, hitting a nitro it's almost a run killer at that sort of high level, because it just, and sometimes you just can't see them, you're stuck in a line and you can't avoid it. So it's like, yeah, that's just luck for you. So we're going to be coming to the last hub of the game. This hub, we're going to start seeing some of the longest tracks as well in the game. So even though we're 35 minutes in, we've got about 20 minutes left of really long-ass tracks. But we're going to start seeing some more interesting techs, because these tracks are all the ones that have the skips in, apart from the first two. The first two will be the same, but Hard Air Skyway and Oxide Station we'll see a bit later will look a lot different, because we're not going to be doing the difficult skips in those tracks. So the first track is going to be Engine Labs. So Engine Labs is a unique track, as well as, actually no, a gimmick that Naughty Dog decided to do was, oh, you're in Hub 4 now, this is the end of the game. We're going to introduce a new mechanic to you called Super Turbo Pads. And as the name suggests, they are super versions of a regular turbo pad. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and build up as many reserves as we can. So we're going to try and do these specific jumps. And I'm going to go off this ramp, and then look how much speed I've got. All that speed. So when you drive off a super turbo ramp, as a goal, a super turbo pad, the game gives you what basically max speed. There's a hard cap of speed in this game, and the game just gives you that amount of speed. So in order to maintain that speed, you have to have the reserves. So we have to build up these mini turbos and do lots of drifting, lots of jumps. And we're going to jump off here, and then we're going to have all this speed. And the idea is we're going to keep the speed as long as we can. So we can kind of cut these corners a bit. It's really bad if you lose the speed, and then we're going to do a U-turn there. We can't keep the speed past that corner with tiny. I think you can. There might be a way to do it, I think, possibly, but it's so slow that it's not worth doing it. Because the gimmick, as well as having the super turbo pads, the other thing with having the USF, as we call it, but for those who want to know the true name of the speed, it's called Ultimate Sacred Fire, which was named in the early 2000s by the French and Italian group who basically were the first to play this game in like 2002 and earlier than that even. So a lot of the techs were sort of named in that era. So the thing is that when you have that speed, and this is where if people have played NF, Nitro Field, the remake, it's a little bit different. In this game, you can't overwrite the speed. If I do anything to get a different amount of speed, so if I did like a mini turbo, like a drift and did a mini turbo, or if I go over a turbo pad, the game overwrites that speed we get with the new speed that we've just acquired. So the only way to keep all the speed is by not doing anything. So we don't even jump off this ramp. When I jump off this ramp, I just drive off it, and I land without doing a landing boost. So it's really important you have to do specific things like that. And there we go. So we've got to try and, let's say, make sure we're not doing jumps. So we've got to drive really flat, not jump off any surfaces, and just drive the best lines we can do. So, okay, another pause there. That's 3, I think. That's not too bad. So we're going to do Cortex Castle. Reverse cam to enter Cortex Castle because there's another laggy corner. So Cortex Castle is another track where historically, if you're talking 2016, 2017, and into 2018, I think it was those kinds of years, it was just impossible to play as this character, and then we forced the meta to change by getting good, basically. So this whole track is right angles. So I'm going to do my best to corner without hitting any walls. And I also need to be building up my reserves. So there is another super turbo pad at the end of this track, which is going to be, it's not as important as the one in Engine Labs. We don't carry it as far, but we are still, quite a little nice corner cut. We can just go across there. I'll try and do a risky one because it looks pretty cool. And then we're going to jump off this ramp, And again, so this is, we're not going to do anything off there, we're just going to drive off that ramp, and then we're going to try and keep this speed as long as possible. And then we're going to just U-turn there. So the speed runs out about there, so I'm just going to preempt it and just do a U-turn and keep it froggy. So the idea again is I want to maintain that speed as long as possible in order to, you know, save a little bit of time. And then again, a lot of this is just really, I don't know if I make it look easy. I am sweating because this is not easy to do consistently. This track is actually like, I don't want to say it's a meme, but this track is like the test of skill because there's no speed ghost, there's no sort of gimmicky things that like quite difficult, well not difficult, more inconsistent. It's raw driving, there's a lot of raw driving on this track. So yeah, so we got the speed. That spider is really annoying lap 3, and I might lose my speed here. Yeah, so if you don't quite get a good chain of mini turbos, it's really easy to just lose your speed because you basically have no reserves when you start this track, so you have to keep the speed you get from that first ramp, and then I don't know what I was doing there. Should we go for the cool thing, which I'll probably fail because I never remember how to do this. Right, let's are we gonna make it? Nope. Every time, every marathon run, I just do that. I don't know what I do wrong. You'd think just doing a 360 is easy, right? But never mind. Oh well. So that's Cortex Castle. Like I say, that's one of the hardest tracks. That's one of the scariest tracks again in this run. So now we've seen all but 2 tracks, and we're gonna do the same 2 tracks twice. So the boss in this track is Pinstripe, and his track is Hot Air Skyway. Then we're going to do Oxide Station, who is the last boss. Oxide Station, and Oxide's the last boss. So we're only going to see 2 more tracks, but this is where we start seeing some, say, if you've ever only watched speedruns with skips, this is where I'm going to start seeing some interesting text. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be doing as many full mini turbos as I can. So you look at that meter at the bottom. I'm going to be filling that as much as I can with the spacing I've got, because I want to build up as much as I can going down this spiral. Okay, and then I get, so that's another USF turbo pad. So I basically have to keep as much speed as I can, and then there we go, keep it to that corner. I can't take that corner with USF, so we're going to do what's called a froggy, and this is essentially a speed ghost. So when you have USF, you have the maximum amount of speed. We said before, you hit the hard speed cap. When you lose USF, you keep that bit of speed as if you went like down a hill or something. So we're going to try and maintain that speed as long as we possibly can. And that's kind of the whole thing of this track. If you see like skipped runs, you skip the spiral at the start, so you don't even do, so you do this part, then you turn around up here and you go backwards and do a skip. So you don't see this spiral very often, which is why it's kind of cool to have a category that does get to see this section of the track. So again, we're going to get this USF and then land in a drift. So we can sort of do drift, so I'm going to do it here, where I sort of jump and then... okay, don't do that. That's not fast. That is something I do more than I like to admit. But unfortunately, we didn't keep the speed, so we're going to have to do a section without the speed. And because we don't have any like turbo pads or anything here, okay, there we go. So we got the speed back. So I'll try and be a bit safer on lap 3 and not do that. And again, so there is also a little small skip where you can just jump the corner here, but we kind of class that as an actual skip and not just a corner cut. So we skip that as well. Again, so hopefully we're going to try and build up our reserves here. It's quite lenient on lap 2 and 3 actually. We can even just like cut this corner a bit. And when I build reserves, the best way to build reserves is to do these full mini turbos, so building that meter at the bottom up. But also, where am I going? If you get like landing boost, so if you jump so high into the air, you get what's called a landing boost. That also gives you reserves, and other things like turbo pads also give you reserves. So we're going to keep this speed. It quite often just kind of fizzles there. What's difficult about keeping the speed is going uphill. So this game has a bit of a block where if you do a jump that's if you do it, I think it's like 13 milliseconds, I don't remember the number. But if you do a small jump in the air, and then you try and do a jump after, the game basically just blocks you. It says, whoa, 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 you did a really small jump there, so we're going to stick your cart to the floor. So when you go up sharp hills, that tends to be what happens, because you just try and jump, your cart gets stuck, and you lose your speed. Because as I was saying before, to maintain speed, we need to minimize the amount of contact our cart has with the ground. So if your cart just gets stuck on the ground at any point in the track, you just kind of lose all your speed that you had. So it's quite brutal in that regard. So another track we're going to be seeing here is Oxide Station. So again, this is a track which, oh, that's a nice start. Thank you for that, Cortex. So again, if you see speedruns, typically we skip this entire first section, and then we skip most of the middle section as well. There's 2 big skips in this, which altogether saves about 20 seconds. Which for a track that's a minute long, that's a lot of track. So I'm going to get what the USF here. I'm just going to change my camera so I can see the boost pads, because I don't want to drive over those. If I drive over one of those boost pads, I lose all that speed I just had. So this is, again, another bit of USF. This is a super turbo pad, so I'm going to land in a drift, keep all that speed. I'm going to froggy up this hill, and that shoots me out with all the speed. And this is where the skip route basically will catch up with you, and you do this section normally. So there are 2 USF pads in this track, super turbo pads. So we're going to try and abuse both of them in this category. And quite funny that if you do skips, you never see the super turbo pad in this track or Hot Air Skyway. And you know, some people might not even know that some of them are super turbo pads. The space section especially, even casual players or like new runners don't see that part of the track very often, because there's a skip, which I'll point out when we get to it. So this is the super turbo pad, so I'm just going to try and hard right. There we go. And then, so there's a skip. If I jump to the left, I can jump over the wall and jump to the track below, and that's another big skip you can do in this track, which most runners, it's quite an easy one. I think there is actually, I think one of the members in the community, give a shout out to Nick, found it was like a Japanese magazine that basically recommended that skip. It was some sort of like strap magazine or like a competition or something like that. No, no, it might have been something else. It might have been a different thing, but that shortcut's just been known since like time began with this game. Like everyone knew about it as a kid, and it's just, so the space section just kind of got, you know, completely ignored. Again, we've got lap 3, so trying to keep the speed. So this first USF pad is actually, ooh, that was an interesting jump. So there's a very specific way to do it. So when I hit this, I want to like hold right and then do a drift. If you try and land in a drift, you don't quite turn sharp enough. So you do have to just hold right and then do a drift. That was an interesting camera. And then this one, there we go. We're just going to drive off this one and land in a drift. So the reason we do a froggy here up this hill is it keeps that speed. If you don't do that, you kind of lose your speed quite quickly. So it's just an extra way of keeping speed. And that's Oxide Station. So there are some small techs here. Like here, I'm going to try and get some speed and then go up that hill with a froggy. And then here, again, I'm going to try and go down this hill and then froggy up there. So there's just little optimizations. Shout out to Lornovio, who actually took my world record on that track with Tiny. He took it like a few days ago by like 0.03, and I was quite proud of that record. But that's an awesome, really fun track to optimize. So now we've got the very typical, you know, gangster possum thing, whatever he is, rat thing. And he's obviously, the whole gimmick with Pinstripe is that he figures he's going to save the world if everyone gives him money. I'm not sure quite what his logic is, because if he is also going to be enslaved, and he figures trying to get some money out of people is worth risking getting enslaved, I guess. So that's why he is basically trying to bribe you, trying to bribe people to not beat him in the race, or saying you won't beat him anyway. So we're gonna do a slightly different tech. We're gonna get you turn down this big spiral, and that is because Pinstripe, he shoots bombs, and bombs home into you slightly. So bombs are just rolling items that have a very small, like green shells in Mario, and they do very slowly home into your cart. There is very weak homing on those. And basically, he takes the spiral really fast. So if I try and do the trick where I go wide on the spiral and drift down it, he will just overtake me and hit me with a bomb. So it's just not worth taking that risk. So I'm just going to do the U-turn tech instead. Now lap 2, we're going to have a pretty standard lap. I'm going to drop this TNT over here. Get that one per crate. He might hit that TNT. Probably will hit that TNT. What I'm interested in is an item I can use. So this is a useful one, but I kind of do need that bit of a security in case I lose my fire somewhere. So I'm going to hold this item. So hopefully we don't have a bomb randomly hit us. So Pinstripe shoots bombs backwards, and they kind of roll all over the place. They also roll through fences. You know, somehow he has ethereal bombs that just roll through fences. So they can just hit you from all sorts of the track.
Say good night.
Oh, that's not very. Okay, just use that item there. If you're a little bit faster than that, that's where the risky part is. That part of the track where you can roll a bomb into you. Lap 3 is usually pretty safe. So again, we'll just do U-turn there because it's a really sharp corner. We can't do without U-turns. We get a bit more bumper. And then we'll just roll some more items. You notice I don't typically drop items. I only drop items when it's either lap 3, because I will either drop the item in Pinstripe's path or the computer's path, or I will hit it myself. Because I take very consistent lines. I'll be taking the same line pretty much every single lap. So if I start dropping things in the way of my own lines, then that's going to just cause problems for me. So. Okay, there we go. So we're going to try and keep the speed. Try and go a little bit left on that hill. Ooh, we're keeping it quite far. Oh, that's about as good as it gets with that one. So that's nice to get at least one lap that was that did that bit right. So we just got this last corner. Again, U-turn, boost pad, and then finish the track. So we're all but one track. So if you follow along with the story. We now have 4 keys, and Pinstripe's been defeated. So now we're going to race Nitrous Oxide, who is the nasty alien who will enslave us if we lose the race to him. And you can imagine a spacefaring intergalactic alien will be a really fair racer, so I'm sure this will be a nice matchup for us. Oh. It took me a second to see what people are doing. He's I don't get why he gets a spaceship as well. I'd love as well a spaceship. So we're going to do a reverse cam here. And as I said, Oxide would never think about cheating, right? But of course, that's exactly what he does. So he has 4 speeds that he could go. He is going slow, I think, which is great. So he goes for 4 random speeds. And you can see he is pretty quick when he wants to be. So he... if he gets the fastest speed, you can't overtake him. You have to basically get stuck behind him until a certain point. And that can literally kill your run because he just drops loads of stuff on the track, basically. So you have to be really careful that he doesn't shoot you with like a bomb or drop a nitro right in your face. So thankfully, we got the slower Oxide where I can just overtake him at the start. And then we're going to see a lot of the similarities with Oxide Station. Now we're past Oxide, then the track plays mostly the same. I'm going to try and get some items, which might help. So, as I was saying before, there is a limit to the amount of items that can be dropped on the track. Oxide drops lots of things, so I can freely drop items and they will be destroyed by the time I come back on my lap because the item limit gets hit, so my item gets destroyed. So again, we're going to try and take this as quick as we can. This will be the last track in the run, so I don't think we've had too bad of a run here. So as I was saying before, this category is skipless. If anyone is interested in running CTR, then I do recommend trying this category out. And we don't have lots of runs on the board because it's a relatively new category. So if people, filling up the board would be nice. We have like 350 runs on the main board. Let's get some more people running on this one. So yeah, if anyone is interested in running this game, we've got the usual places you can find us. So we're on Discord, We have quite an active time trial community if you're interested in either time trials or full gaming runs. I'm always active in the Discord, and there are a few people active in there. If you ever feel like getting involved, as I say, this is a great category for just teaching you the nuances of the game, teaching you how to play better, and then the better you can master just the basic driving, the easier time you'll have. But if you ever feel like transitioning to learning skips and that kind of thing. Okay, I'm just gonna hopefully get a nice clean outside race. Try and go as close as we can. You'll notice on that ramp I do a single jump. So you have lots of speed, so you just single jump off that ramp. That's the fastest way to do it, whereas this one you've got to be on. So we are coming up to time. So I believe I have the powerful button which stops the timer. So there'll also be a short incentive, I believe, which was hit. I think someone told me that that had been hit. So we're going to do a quick incentive after this, but that is CTR in 55 minutes. I'll take 55. So all things considered, I think that run wasn't too bad. For reference, the world record is 54:27, 26 or something. So about 40 seconds, 50 seconds off. So we've successfully humiliated the intergalactic alien guy, and he's going to leave us alone, you'd think. But no, we've got to collect his time relics, and you know he's got his own thing, but we don't want to listen to him. So I believe I'm all okay. I'm going to look at tech because I'm going to have to do a console switch. Because basically we are going to be showing you a bit of a showcase. So behind the scenes, CTR has a active time trial community. So am I okay to just swap the cable? Yeah. So I'm just we're gonna go black for a little bit. And don't worry, I am a professional. I need to do some classic disc swapping. So yeah, so we have an active modding community who are also working on doing a rewrite of this game, which will be like a PC port. And they said it's absolutely fine that I show you guys. Hopefully that worked. If people can't see what I'm doing, I'm basically trying to do a disc swap on the PS2 to load a burn disc, which has got the mod on it. Oh, there we go. Cool. Just close that. So this is the first ever custom track for CTR. So again, the guys, if you're the guys over at the mod server, I feel really bad. I don't remember who particularly worked on this. I think Nico did. I think Avery, Super. I think DX Demo. I might be forgetting someone. But they've basically made the first fully playable custom track. I have to run. For this track, and again, we're working the behind the scenes. There is a PC port where they're currently working on decompiling the game and hopefully create some cool mods and custom tracks. They also wanted to say that at the minute they are working on tools to make custom tracks for anyone to use, but as of now they're in development. This track's a few months old, but this is the first custom track for this game. So it's very basic. Obviously, we're at the early stages, but this track's actually called Trial Trauma. So I'll just show you. You know, this is a fully working track. You can jump off the edge, and you get respawned. You go back where you were. So everything works pretty much as intended. And if there are any CTR geeks in the chat or people who really like this game as a kid, then we do have. Say there is a PC port in active development. Can I make that jump? Oh, that's a jump you can make across there. But yeah, so we are looking at making mods. So Paradise, who is a modder, has recently made a mod where you can actually play CTR, but it has Mario Kart physics, which is quite cool. So the way mini turbos work in that game, you can do like the drifting mechanics is just like Mario Kart. There are some other stuffs. We have a practice mod for this game as well, which was made by Red Hot a while ago. I'll do another more serious attempt. I'll see if I can get the skips work. But yeah, like I say, fully working. If you are interested in finding out news about CTR, how the decomp's going, there is a YouTube channel called Dark Kaiser, or it's D-A-R-K and then Kaiser, so D-A-R-K-A-I-S-E-R, which is which has all the decompile work for and anything that gets released. There is a recently was I don't think I can make that jump, can I? Oh, there we go. Hey, I tried practicing this track a little earlier. I've not played this too much. Nick, who I mentioned earlier, has the world record. There is a way to. Went on the road there. That was quite interesting. But yeah, so if you're interested in following news for the custom tracks, the rewrite, all that kind of thing, head over to YouTube. Like I said, the username's Darkaiser, DARKAISER, and all the news and stuff's posted there. And if that's everything, I just want to give a shout out to the active community in CTR. Like I say, we've got an active Discord if you are interested. There's lots of people who are always happy to help new players. And I think that is it for me, so I'll pass it back over to our host.
Thank you for showing us that, as well as that custom map. That's really cool to see. We're going to go to our intermission so we can set up for our next run. So we'll be back in a few minutes.